From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo, and this is From the South. Ecuador's unions held a press conference following new economic measures which were announced by the government of Lenín Moreno on Tuesday. The announcements include another hike in gasoline prices and the elimination of 25,000 public jobs. Some critics, including Ecuador's Citizens Revolution movement, have said that this represents a neoliberal policy shift. Union leaders reacted to the government's announcements.
We oppose to the price increases to gas. We condemn the statements of the Minister of Finance when he says that basic necessity products are not transported in vehicles which use gasolina extra and says that their price will not rise. Speculation will be generated and will in turn increase the cost of products of basic necessity in our country.
Right now, Ecuadorians are living a political crisis, an economic crisis, and the social crisis that comes as a consequence. This crisis is not being provoked by workers nor the Ecuadorian people, the least protected people. This crisis is being provoked by large business-owning groups in partnerships with sections of the government. They think that once again, it is us who are responsible for creating this crisis. At no point are us workers responsible for causing this economic crisis.
And staying in Ecuador, Ecuador's National Assembly has approved several reforms to the communication law passed 5 years ago by the government of Rafael Correa. The reforms eliminated the articles that regulated the media, as well as those on administrative and economic sanctions on media organizations. Reforms also touched on the protection against media attacks and the renewal of radio and TV frequencies. Opposition parties said this law didn't allow for freedom of expression. Former Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva will remain in prison. The President of the Supreme Court, Minister Dias Toffoli, has just annulled a decision to release detainees convicted in the second instance. Lula and the other people who are incarcerated, who have not yet exhausted their appeals processes, will remain behind bars. But earlier, a Supreme Court judge ruled that all prisoners awaiting a judgment on their second appeal should be released. Lula's attorneys had called for his immediate release. The former president has been jailed since April 2018. Paraguayan indigenous communities and farming organizations have reported that they are being removed from their land due to soy monoculture farming. They will meet with the Paraguayan government on Thursday to discuss a solution. Our correspondent in Asunción, Osvaldo Sayas, tells us more.
Displaced communities are now camping in the city centre of Asunción. Campesino and indigenous organisations will meet with the Paraguayan government to discuss land and agricultural issues. Farmers groups say that there is a crisis in the countryside due to monoculture farming. Businesses, mainly from Brazil, are planting soy indiscriminately, as it is the most valuable crop in Paraguay. These monocultures take land away from traditional farmers and indigenous communities, and social organizations are asking the government to take action on the issue. The Paraguayan constitution says that agricultural reforms should be dealt with at state level. There have been many complaints from indigenous farmers saying that they have been removed from their land. They are demanding a solution to this situation. The meeting between indigenous communities, farming organizations and the government will be held on Thursday morning.
We thank Osvaldo Sayas for that report. The Guatemalan Ministry of Foreign Affairs has asked the United States to open an investigation into the death of Jacqueline Call. The 70-year-old migrant died while in the custody of U.S. border agents. The Foreign Affairs Minister also said that the documentation necessary to repatriate Jacqueline's body is ready, and she will be returned to her family in Guatemala. Mexico's government has announced its new migration policy will focus on respecting human rights and social development. The new migration policy will be in accordance with the recently adopted United Nations Migration Pact. The Mexican government will expand its existing special border labor visa program of Guatemala and Belize to El Salvador and Honduras. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says he plans to grant thousands of humanitarian visas to members of the migrant caravan currently waiting in Tijuana.
The two fundamental axes of this new migration policy, human rights on the one hand, and that we cooperate and collaborate to trigger development in neighboring Central American countries.
Shocking footage has been released from the U.S.-Mexico border where migrant children have been marked with numbers. Footage has emerged showing numbers written in black ink on the arms of children, while their families have been stuck for weeks at a migrant shelter, Casa del Migrante. It is not yet known how and when the practice of tracking migrants numerically began. According to reports, it has become standard for all those seeking asylum at a number of ports of entry into the United States. The United States has committed billions of dollars towards development in Mexico and Central America. According to the Mexican and U.S. governments, both administrations said it is part of a plan to strengthen economic growth and curb migration in the region. The money will be allocated to existing aid programs as well as new loans and private sector support. Pablo Perez has more information.
Today, the Mexican foreign minister announced a binational plan with the United States in which Mexico has committed to invest $35 billion for the coming years in Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. These are the countries with the largest migrant flows. The intention is to support the economic development of the region to better the living conditions of the citizens of these countries. This in order to stop the massive migrant flow. This means that Mexico will invest $35 billion, while the U.S. will invest $5.8 billion in Central America. This is one of the primary actions the United States is taking to fight immigration and goes against the attacks and statements repeated by the U.S. president.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. Port workers in the Chilean city of Valparaíso have rejected a government proposal to end their strike, which has gone on for more than 30 days. The workers are demanding better conditions. Our correspondent in Chile, Paola Dragnik, brings us up to date.
There are clashes happening right now between the port workers and security forces here in the city of Valparaíso. The port workers have rejected the government's proposal that would have brought their strike to an end and then immediately began to protest. Security forces set out to repress the demonstrations straight away. That's the story of what's been happening in the past few days. It doesn't look like this is going to come to an end anytime soon. There are more massive demonstrations planned for the afternoon, and universities have offered their support to the port workers by going on strike as well.
On December 19th, Chile observes the National Day Against Femicide. Many women took part in cultural activities in memory of Javiera Neira Oportus, a 6-year-old girl murdered by her father 13 years ago. Our correspondent in Santiago, Tiare Valenzuela, has more on this.
To take out women from the Red Chronicle and put her in the feminist fight for resistance. This is what all feminist movements aspire to, especially the group called 19th of December that seeks called the National Day Against Femicide, a crime that in Chile is only classified when committed by a couple or spouse. But there are hate crimes against women directed at them for being women. And that is what they are fighting for, to have these crimes called femicides. Because there are a blacklist of many women who aren't visible in this list of official femicides in the country. A special day in which the leader of this group, Claudia Neira, lost her child, Javiera, murdered by her biological father on the 19th of December. A date also for the commemoration of women killed by hate crimes for just being women. Many of them have resisted, called police and called many other institutions, but haven't been heard, and many finally been killed. making longer the unfortunate list of gender crimes in our country.
We thank the editor for that report. A video has emerged showing the last few seconds of the life of Mapuche leader Camilo Catrillanca before he was assassinated in Chile. Defense lawyer of the ringleader Patricio Sepúlveda handed over the video evidence to the prosecutor in Temuco. The video also shows a policeman patrolling Collipur Road while a helicopter is hovering over the area. The footage contradicts the statement made by the head of the police, who said evidence of a police presence had been destroyed. Milagros Sala, the Argentinian social leader, is in the middle of her fourth trial. Our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Sabrina Roth, has more.
The hearings continue in the fourth trial against Argentinian indigenous leader Milagros Sala in the case known as the 2007 Azo Pardo shooting. The prosecutor has recommended a 12-year jail sentence for Sala. She's accused of being the co-conspirator in the murder of neighborhood leader Alberto Cardozo. The main witness, Jorge Rafael Paz, is believed to have lied to the court on numerous occasions, and his is the only testimony against her. He claimed that in a meeting the day before, Milagros Sala ordered Cardozo to be killed. But everybody else giving testimony, even those who he said took part in the meeting, denied that meeting ever took place. The hearings continue next week, and the following week the final sentence is expected to be delivered.
We thank Sabrina for that report. Guatemalan President Jimmy Morales has given a 72-hour deadline to the International Commission Against Impunity to leave the country. There are 11 commission officials left who have been investigating corruption cases in the country. Earlier this year, Morales banned the head of the commission from entering the country, announcing that the commission mandate would not be renewed. This after the anti-corruption body launched a series of investigations against high-level officials. Morales and his family were part of multiple corruption investigations. Mexico is often described as an intoxicating place for artists. The country's thriving creative scene has given rise to a new generation of artistic talent. However, these cultural practitioners now fear that proposed budget cuts will threaten the sector's viability and create a culture crisis.
Artists gather outside Congress to protest what they say is a cultural crisis. The 2019 budget proposes significant cuts in arts funding. The cultural practitioners want to meet with no less than the president of the Budget Commission.
We want a revision on the budget for culture. We are concerned about the cuts it has suffered.
A number of programs have been cut in various sectors. According to official sources, the government has said it wants to reduce the so-called superfluous expenses.
We understand there is a need of an austerity programs and that certain expenses and privileges should be deleted. But we are worried because there are 500 programs at risk.
Artists also lament that most of the cultural programs take place in the capital city, while provinces are left out.
Culture is basic and fundamental to understand our society, to understand our current issues and the effect they have on us, like social insecurity.
They say the full impact of the funding cut will be felt not only by practitioners, but the wider society.
The new government has said that economic development is not enough, that we also need to develop our souls, so then we need culture for that.
On December 15th, the public budget for 2019 was presented in Congress. Lawmakers have until December 31st to present any changes to the fiscal package and approve it.
The Bolivian president, Evo Morales, has been celebrating 13 years in office. Thousands of supporters joined Morales in the city of Cochabamba to commemorate the day. In more than a decade, Bolivia has cut poverty almost to 40% and registers the fifth largest economic growth in Latin America. Morales is set to run for office once again.
The right wing come from dictators. We won with more than 50%. Then, in the last election, we won with more than 60%. And they call us dictator? The unity of the Bolivian people is democracy. It's a consensus. If we won with more than 50%, then with more than 60%, then, brothers and sisters, in the coming years, we have to win by more than 70%. That's what we want.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. A rally has been held in Yemen's capital Sana'a to support the ceasefire agreement in Hodeidah. Members of the Houthi movement chanted and danced in support of the ceasefire that started in the port city on Tuesday at midnight. This is the first truce between the Houthi rebels and the Saudi-backed Yemeni government in more than 2 years. And just 4 days ahead of the presidential election in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the governor of the capital, Kinshasa, has banned rallies citing security reasons. Joint opposition party candidate Martin Fayulu was scheduled to hold a rally in the capital on Wednesday, but authorities prevented him from entering the city, while the party of another opposition candidate rejected the decision and said they would continue to campaign.
What is happening is that our president is blocked on the other side of the fence. The police are blocking his way. We don't need any mess. We just came to welcome our president and go with him.
Therefore, faced with an unfair decision, we, UDPS, say no. And no, we will never allow this decision. It is illegal. It violates our rights and freedoms. Therefore, we will follow the electoral calendar.
Uganda's border with the Democratic Republic of Congo remains on high alert as authorities increase their efforts to stop Ebola from entering. People crossing the border have to wash their hands and shoes in chlorinated water. They also have to have their temperature taken for signs of fever before they are allowed to cross into Uganda. More than 300 people have died from Ebola since the Democratic Republic of Congo declared a new outbreak in August.
We have established 6 screening points at the main point of entry called Mbondwe, where we do screening, and on a daily basis, on a very busy day, we go as far as 30 people screened. Of course, we have also established other screening points. You know, our border with the DRC is so porous, and we've managed to add another 5 screening points. Besides the main point of entry, which is in Mbondwe.
Yellow vest protests have now hit Taiwan. More on that and other stories from around the world.
Thousands of protesters wearing yellow vests have marched in front of Taiwan's presidential palace, calling for tax and judicial reforms. They're also calling on the government to stop using fines and taxation as a means of political persecution against anti-government organizations. Taiwan's yellow vest movement started in 2016, rallying against unfair taxation.
I'm coming here to protest the unjust tax system because the current tax system in Taiwan is very intransparent and unstable, and you can see lots of fraud in this tax system. So this caused lots of foreign companies retrieving their investment from Taiwan, and also lots of local companies cease operating, and that seriously impact our working environments.
Quiet fell over the Yemeni port city of Hodeidah as forces from both the Saudi-backed Yemeni government and Houthi rebels observed the UN-brokered ceasefire. The truce, which was hammered out after a week of peace talks in Sweden, will see all forces withdrawn from Hodeidah in the coming month. They will be replaced by so-called local security forces. 9 crew members of a cargo ship who were stranded aboard their vessel have been brought to safety in Turkey. They were rescued using a zipline after heavy winds caused the vessel to run aground, just off of Istanbul's coastal district of Chile. Emergency workers are still trying to rescue 7 others.
Britain's Labour opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn has come under fire after he appeared to mouth the words "stupid woman" following an intense exchange with Prime Minister Theresa May. As Corbyn faces calls to apologize for his comments, an opposition spokesperson has said that what Corbyn actually muttered was "stupid people." The remark was captured by television cameras, so let's have a look.
I've got some advice for the right honourable gentleman. Look behind you. They're not impressed, and neither's the country.
A French court has approved the takeover of the Ascoval steelworks in northern France by a Franco-Belgian company, saving almost 300 jobs. Takeover will take place early next year, ending an almost year-long search for a buyer. The factory was at risk of closing down after the company owning the steel mill was liquidated in February 2018. Workers staged several protests through the year, calling on the government to save it. Now, the new owner also promised to create over 100 new jobs in the next 2 years.
It's a relief. That's it. We'll finally be able to breathe and then go home, enjoy the holidays and not say, what's going to happen tomorrow?
The first post-bailout budget has been approved by the Greek parliament. It includes some social measures and leaves out pension reduction. Our correspondent in Greece has more.
Buenas tardes, saludos a toda nuestra audiencia. El Parlamento griego.
With 154 votes in favor, the 2019 budget has been approved by Parliament. All lawmakers from the Syriza government coalition voted in favor, as well as an independent member of Parliament and a Center Union representative. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras said that this budget is a political success, as it does not include the pension cut that the Troika had decided on for 2019 and 2020. In August 2018, the Troika imposed a new fiscal adjustment to pensions for the 14th time. However, it has not been included in the budget because the creditors accepted the forecast set out by the Greek government, which said that the Greece economy will grow by 2.5% next year, with a GDP surplus of 3.6%, and that unemployment will drop from its current level of 18% to 16%. The opposition have said that this is the final budget to be presented by Tsipras and his government, as the right wing will win next year's elections.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez and Catalan President Quim Torra could hold a meeting this Thursday to discuss the situation in Catalonia. Our correspondent, Joan Ortiz, has the latest details.
There are still no details about the meeting between Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez and Catalan President Quim Torra, as they are still negotiating what will be up for discussion. However, the meeting itself has been confirmed. The Catalan government wants to speak with the Spanish government as equals, but the Spanish government wants to make the hierarchy between both parties clear, saying that Sánchez is the Prime Minister of a country, while Torra is the leader of an autonomous community. It is unclear if other government ministers will be present at the meeting. What we do know is that the popular response to the meeting is already being organized. Social organizations have planned a citizens' council, and there will be protests in Barcelona. On Friday, a meeting of the Spanish cabinet is planned in Catalan's capital, and the Spanish and Catalan leaders will meet on Thursday. On Friday evening, supporters of Catalan independence will march in the city, while a union demonstration will take place at the same time.
We thank Joan Ortiz for that report. New York is one of the richest cities in the world. However, 1 in every 5 citizens depend on food banks. Official statistics reveal that more than 1 million people are in need of this help.
From November 2013, the need for emergency food services has risen dramatically due to cuts to the nutritional assistance program known as SNAP.
People think about people that are hungry. You think about the people you see in the train, on the steps, and that's your association with that. But in reality, it's your cousin, it's your aunt, it's your own family, and they don't even tell you that they go to food pantries every single day just to eat and survive.
According to the latest report from the New York Food Bank, 80% of food banks and soup kitchens have seen an increase in the number of people in need in recent years.
When you can't give them food, you give them a little milk or bread. They'll never leave empty-handed.
The situation is most critical in the Bronx, where 31% of the population relies on the Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP, that is. 22% in Brooklyn, 14% in Manhattan, and 13% in Queens and Staten Island. Even the police are conscious of the problem and are helping people in need.
You know, I'm trying to work with different food banks, so we did contact, there's a food bank here who serves, they give groceries out and they do serve food Tuesday to Friday from 9 to 1 and then from 2 to 4. So there are food banks in the neighborhood that are trying to help people and give them groceries and stuff like that, and also give services. So that's what they're trying to do here in this neighborhood because of everything that's going on.
According to the food bank, 54% of places offering food don't have enough provisions. even though their operating costs are low, and half of them work with volunteers. Official data reveals that 1.4 million New York citizens depend on food banks and soup kitchens.
And finally, Christmas decorations are lighting up Syria's capital, Damascus. The city is marking its first holiday season since the government regained control of most of the country. A 30-meter high Christmas tree has been set up in the city center. The decorations are bringing light back to the capital after 7 years of civil war. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.